Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Falcon number 1411 capping block is what this is. This is obviously a very simple tool, and no locksmithing tools are ever inexpensive, and this is no exception. But this is what is called a capping block. A capping block permits you to add to the top of the cylinder interchangeable core cylinder assembly, either the individual caps or the slide cover over the spring. This is a Falcon, and they will do best style capping as well, which would be the 1393 capping block, but the 1411 is the Falcon style, which means it's a slide cover. It is a slide cover is a piece of brass that's about that wide, about that long, depending on 6 or 7 pin, and shaped like a V, so that when you put it on top of your cylinder, you slide your cylinder in here, you place your spring cap on top, then you use this plate to place on top of there, you then hammer it down. While that cap is there, the spring cover is there, it will, of course, be not sitting flat. And this tool it's really necessary if you're pinning interchangeable core with a slide cover Falcon style. The reason it's necessary is to do it without a capping block is a chore. It's changing spark plugs with a toothbrush. You can do it, it's just the wrong tool. So the fact of the matter is you'll really want a capping block, because there's no otherwise good way to get that slide cover flattened down and firmly holding in all the springs, which are under a significant amount of compression. So this tool, let's just take some dimensional properties. Overall width of the tool, about 1 1/4 inches. Overall height, 1 1/4 inches. Overall width, almost, why not 1 1/4 inches? 1 1/8 inches. Your cover, of course, has that T profile to it. Okay, that will sit inside of there. Now, I have a core here, and basically you just slide it in, and then once your spring cover is on top, you'll place this there, and then you hammer it down. This is not a slide cover style. This is just a best style core that I happen to have here to at least show you how it slid in. The tool could be a lot better, though. The problem is you have 5, 6, or possibly 5, 6, or 7 stacks of pins, a spring on top that's sticking out of the top of the cylinder assembly, and then you've got a spring cover that you're trying to pinch down like this. So you're holding it all down, and now you got to try to get this over on top of that without disrupting anything. Then you have to try to hold that down and hammer without hitting your hand. The tool concept, of course, is perfect. The actual tool itself could be refined. It would be better to have a couple of holes drilled and countersunk down in there so you could secure it to the workbench. That'd be nice as an option. Or possibly a heavy magnet underneath if you had that ability. A magnet would be nice. The ability to have this plate either physically wider so that you could hold it down and get your fingers out of the way of the small hammer that you'll use, or better, wider and a couple of rings underneath so that you can fit it into your thumb and index finger so that you can then hold it on and get your hand away from all of it, or at least away from all of it, and then hammer down. So the tool is necessary to do the job, but it unfortunately could be a better design. There are capping blocks made by lots of different people. This just happens to be the Falcon. There's a link below this video to the cut sheet. Let's take a look at that and the product brochure, which is also linked to down below. Now, looking at the cut sheet that is here, you'll see other standard equipment for running a Falcon system. The 1411 is down here under capping blocks. Okay, now let's take a look at 1411. Okay, the block only, I suppose, if you ever needed that alone, or the tapping plate if you're going to lose, I suppose, one of the two types. They say dovetail. This is indeed dovetail just in terms of the shape of the unit. It's got a dovetail underneath. I would have called it beveled. And then they'll also do a best style capping block. There are people that are accustomed to individual capping. That's the way they want to do it, and there you go. The rest of the page gets into the other tools. Having a machine to punch the keys is crucial, or cut the keys at least. I prefer a punch machine, whether it be this is a Pro Lock machine. You want to buy the Falcon 1208? Great. It's going to ship to you as the BP201 by Pro Lock. So on these, on cutting the keys first. First of all, you will get the key gauge in the front if you bought this 1208 for an A2 system. An A4 system is best has 3 systems: A2, A3, and A4. A3 is an obsolete system, even though it still exists and they still support it. But the A2 system has a specific increment between the pin lengths. The A3 system is closer together. The A4 system is different yet again. And the differing systems basically is directly related to how many change keys you can yield through a system. That's a completely different video. Back to the cutting. I like the punch, and here's why I like the punch. If you have a key, and here's an incredibly poor drawing. Okay, you've got some cuts on a key. Okay. The way the system by Falcon is designed, and best for that matter, is at the cut of that key, you know, if we were looking at it in cross-section, if we were looking at that cut in cross-section, the bottom of that is meant to be flat. When you cut a tool on a rotary cutter, like an HPC Blitz if you're generating new keys, or just copying, that cut is actually not flat. It is, if we were going to exaggerate the bottom of the cut, more like this, because you have a round cutting wheel, right? So if you're cutting it on a circular tool, you're not really going to have the right profile to the bottom of it, to the bottom of your cuts. I like the punch machine because that's the way the system is designed. Whether you're using a punch machine by Falcon a la Pro Lock or a best combinator, the way it was all engineered is to not have a slight curve to the bottom. I've done it both ways. I've never really encountered an inconsistency here, but the proper way to cut them is to have a flat bottom cut, and a punch and a die in the Falcon 1208 Pro Lock BB201 is going to give you that. If you're going to pin this stuff, you obviously have to have a pinning kit. I would encourage you, if you're going to do a job, to make sure that if you're buying a pinning kit, it will have immediately all the pieces that you need in terms of quantity. You may not have enough Falcon spring covers in a 1404 kit to do the first job that you do. There may only be 100 springs in there, and if you're going to do 15 7-pin cores, not a lot of cores necessarily, but you already, don't have enough pins. A key gauge is crucial. You have to have one. The depth bar will come with your cutter and is shown right here. That's how you set the depth on your key. Capping pin and ejector tool. You'll need an ejector tool for sure, which is the longer one. A capping pin only if you're doing best style individual capping. But an ejector pin is nice because you can then take your core and push out of the bottom of the core all of your pins if you need to eject pins, remove springs, remove caps, whatever it is. Miscellaneous IC parts, drive pins, drive washers. These would be for the back of the cylinder so as to drive the lock with the tuning fork, so to speak, you can think of it as. Mortise accessories, mortise cam. Okay, these don't necessarily apply. Well, they do apply. They allow you to swap out cams, and if you're going to change cams on the back of a core, you're going to want a system by which to do it, that's for sure, because those are staked on. I wouldn't say riveted on, but it would certainly look like they were riveted on. Now, moving forward, it's not part of the keying, but if you're going to install the cylinder, some people like to have this tool where they will insert this into the core and then use the handle in the palm of their hand. Some people think that it permits them to install the core easier, and I don't disagree. I just don't use one. I like to have the feeling of the cylinder in my fingertips so I can tell if I'm attempting to cross-thread it. There's also a link below this video to the product brochure that will give you an overview of the Falcon system. Okay, you can certainly learn a lot about what you need to do to pin interchangeable core by starting here and then referring to other documents. An overview of the key ways available from Falcon. You will notice that they run in alignment with the best designations as well, and that's because they're the same. This is your your slide cover style here, and that's your individual capping. If you're going to do capping by best, you're going to need to have that capping block. Okay, they mentioned down here A2, A3, and A4 over here. Again, a much different conversation. The A4 is a larger system than A2 because of what's called parity. You always have to be 2 steps away in an A2 system, whereas in an A4 system you can be in single step. So you get an additional exponent to deriving your change keys. A3 is not supported. It can be, any Falcon product can be combinated to A3, but because of what they did with single step and bringing the pins very close together, there's unintentional key interchange that occurs, it was found. So the product catalog will talk to you about the part numbers of the cores, if you're going to get into it, your key blanks, if you're going to get into it, okay? Standard or plain, simple. You want it to look like a best, have at it. Easy stuff. Columns here. There is no function of 6 or 7 pin in a blank. They're all the same, or 5 pin for that matter. You can, if you're doing hotel locks or where an emergency key is required, or an innkeeper's key it can be called as well. They have an extra feature here, and that's a different conversation on how to pin those. Your tuning fork, if you recall, I mentioned that earlier. That will make your locks work, and your application of what series to work is here. What series of lock you want to drive with it. Disposable cores, those are very common as well. And then we're back to our catalog cut sheet. Continuing to scroll through that catalog will allow you to review other items. And the reason I have it here is because if you're looking at the capping block, it is handy to be able to look at the rest of the entire interchangeable core section of their catalog, which is why I leave it there. Let's finish up this video with a view on the manufacturer's page of this website. And that link is right here, where you'll be able to pull up all things Falcon. In particular, you're going to be able to see the product catalog. Other archival documents will be over here, such as a technical manual, a master index of manuals. There ought to be service manuals are here as well, along with the keys, keying, and key systems catalog. If you're going to get into Falcon key work, you're going to want to review this as well. It doesn't teach you, I don't believe, how to pin small format, but being self-taught in that, I would tell you that you would also be able to review easily accessible published data on how to pin interchangeable core. And once you have the knowledge, and assuming that you have the correct tools, you'll be able to certainly pin that material. Now, finally, if you have any questions on the Falcon, part number 1411, their capping block for their slide cover style, Falcon style, or any other Falcon product, please feel free to reach out to us. I taught myself how to key interchangeable core when I was about 22. I'm gonna guess, and I was boggled. I got the tools. I needed to do a job, and I said, of course I'll do it. I'll learn how to do it. And I had a problem in just wrapping my head around it all initially. And I was able to contact Falcon when they were in California and speak to tech support. And the gentleman walked me through it, literally taught me how to do it over the telephone. Thank you very much. Hung up, tried to do it, still called back. Extremely patient. And I've always remembered Falcon for how patient they were teaching a client of theirs how to pin the stuff. That's generally not something the factory teaches. And it's because of those initial lessons that I possess a working knowledge of the system and how to go about doing it. Any questions on the Falcon 1411 capping block or any other Falcon product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.